love you almost.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Ruben, it's Michael Batio.
Yay, how's it going? Hey, thanks for taking a few moments out of your day. I got pre-ordered the record, and I was looking forward to listening to it, so I've been kind of jamming out to it as I've been running errands all the last couple of days since I got it. Great stuff, and great driving record, actually, to just get behind the wheel and drive.
Well, thank you.
Now, I know you issued an album with Ratpak. I think, how long ago was that? Was that like 4 or 5 years ago? It was kind of like I guess, I don't know if, yeah, go ahead.
It was like for lack of a better way to say it, the best cuts, the greatest.
That's what I was going to say. It was like a compilation of the prime stuff, which was pretty cool, because I think that once again kind of opened my eyes and ears to your playing again. Having been a fan of Nitro way back, when the Out Fucking Rages record, I mean, that was way over the top. So I guess I'll jump back a little bit to that particular band. Now, when you guys put that band together, I mean, obviously your play is over the top. Jim's vocal approach is over the top. Did you guys, at any given point, I guess by either label, management, or anybody said, maybe you guys might want to consider not being so over the top, or did you just go for it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about Nitro, because I've done so many interviews over the years,
Right.
It's a long, long time ago.
Right.
So I'm more concerned about what the new album and the present than rehashing the past, if you don't mind.
Sure. So with the, going back, I mean, I'm definitely the No Boundaries record. I think that was the first time, I picked up solo music. And then, like you said, the Shred record, Shred Force 1, was the best cuts. Now, how did you select like the stuff that was going to make that particular record? Because you had a pretty nice amount of solo stuff that you had to work with.
Yeah, I've actually, they said this was it's been billed as my 13th solo release. It's actually the 15th.
Oh, geez.
And because Shred Force, there were a few other albums I did in the last couple of years for other artists overseas and that I toured with, that were Michael Angelo Batio records. But really, Joe O'Brien from Shred Force, the owner of Ratpak, just looked online, looked at the numbers, saw what were the most popular songs, plus some of the ones that he liked, and then we added a few bonus tracks, getting like Todd Latore from Queensryche on there, and some of the guys from Metal Church, and I had over 24 guest stars on that album, so it was pretty cool. And we picked cuts too that I had a lot of my rock star buddies on. So, it was just jam-packed for guest stars and all different things in my career.
Right. Now, as far as that goes, because, I mean, that was that you could almost do like a part 2 or 3 to that. I mean, was that ever in the talking stages?
Not really. I think because after that record with Ratpak, I tour a lot. And I mean, I was even on a big tour already this year before this COVID-19 hit. I was gone almost all of January, all of February, into the beginning of March. So we just, we haven't talked about that because he wanted new material, and I had a lot of, I was planning on doing 2 albums.
Right.
One really heavy like this one, and then the second one an acoustic album.
Oh, wow.
And so, we decided on, to release one that's on the heavier side.
Sure. Wow. Okay. Now, in terms of, the new record, how much of that material was, how old is the oldest tune on there, or is it all freshly composed stuff here within the last couple years or so?
Well, Chris Adler played on a couple of tracks, Lamb of God, and
Right.
and he was a Megadeth. He won the Grammy for it, and his engineer, Josh Wilbur, was the producer of Megadeth's last album, and he won a Grammy for that too. So, I'm in the studio with Grammy award-winning
Right.
people, but he arranged some of those songs, and can you ask that question again? Sorry,
Basically, I think in short, it's like out of the material that's on the new album.
It's all new.
It's all new.
It's all new.
Within what time range are we talking about here?
Well, I started it at the end in the beginning of 2017.
Okay.
So, and those songs. I mean, I've written songs since then, but the only thing that's a little older on there are two riffs from an album of mine called Intermezzo that Chris and the producer Josh really liked. So we put those in one of the parts of one of the songs. But I wrote about 30 or 40 songs for this album, picked the best ones that I thought and the ones that were stylistically, except for a couple acoustic songs. But the album was actually finished in September of last year, and with this COVID thing, it got pushed back like about 3 months. So we were supposed to release it in the beginning of the year, and then we couldn't, and then we just decided, let's do it. We can sit on it forever, and so I'm happy we did. But generally speaking, for recording the record and getting like Kim and Chris and Victor Wooten on it. All this material was written for this album.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty recent.
Yeah, so Brian, now when you write, I mean, how much stuff do you have left over for like archival stuff or demos that you didn't quite complete and stuff? Did you have a whole lot of stuff that is tucked away for further use?
Well, I don't, not necessarily. It's strange with me because I don't really find that too many songs that I've written that, like, if I'm writing for an album, I maybe only have like a couple throwaways, and it's really rare I rehash it because I don't have writer's block. I can come up with ideas all the time. So, I just get a concept like this album. We wanted a really heavy. I wanted to just really stretch out, play great rhythm guitar. Have Chrissy's a Lamb of God style drummer and Megadeth. So there's a lot of thrashy parts, but being that it's instrumental, the lead guitar is really melodic in spots, and it's just ripping your face off in other spots. So that's kind of the concept of this record. And once I do it, I start thinking about, okay, what's the next one? Then I kind of get an idea of what I want to write about, and then I just start going for it.
Right.
And the demos, usually become the album.
Right. So I know, with Ratpak, I mean, they're always about doing these awesome packages and stuff like that. Like, they pre-order. I mean, you get the signed slip cover and, the pick and all that other cool stuff. So I'm sure you're probably geeked when they put these bundles together, because obviously, it's almost kind of like, going back to the old like Kiss albums or something where extra bonus stuff was in the LPs and stuff like that, and the vinyl.
Yeah, I just love it. Just the vinyl and they even put up cassettes and it's tangible things, because so much music now, it's just digital. It's listenable, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's something to be said about just looking at a physical package. Looking at the photos and credits and all that stuff, and I still love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So the next thing I was going to ask you, in terms of like selecting the song that was going to kick off this record, I mean, was there any other tunes that were in consideration? Because ultimately you shot a video for the Badlands, which is a great tune, but I mean, there's so many on here that I've been thinking at least 5 that I can think of that probably would have been the candidate. How did you narrow it down to the song that was going to launch this particular record?
We didn't know, and we just we picked one that we thought of, and being that hindsight being 2020, we're probably we could have picked other ones, but I think that we're probably going to end up doing videos for most of them.
Oh, wow.
And so, I mean, I'm out in California a lot, and not right now. I don't live there anymore. But all the companies I work with, they're still in LA, and so we'll probably pick another 2 or 3 and do more videos for it.
Nice.
Well,
And the other thing too that I was going to say, at Ratpak, again, the bonus cuts on there, when people put bonus cuts usually on albums, they're kind of it's at times more often than not throwaways. But I mean, I can almost include the 3 tunes that are the bonus cuts as basically part of the record.
I know. See, it's a funny thing because, when you think in terms of an album, you think about continuity and a flow. So you want to end with a bang, so to speak. But that's what I mean. What I'm going to probably do now, what we're going to do is let the record get out there, see what people say, which are the best cuts, and then we're going to go back and film some more videos for it. But yeah, I'm really happy with all the songs. I had more, and one of the things that I did too, being that it's instrumental, I tried to keep the song lengths down, shorter, and instead of the 7-8 minute epics, and which I love, don't get me wrong, but only a couple of the songs are long, and the irony is the 2 longest songs are the 2 songs that Josh Wilbur, the Grammy Award winning producer, arranged for me on this album. He just liked all those parts, and he liked the way, he put it together in a really interesting way. And but I tried to keep everything no more than 4 minutes. Some are in the 3s, and then some are a little bit over 4. But I just wanted to keep just relentless. It's like in and out. Just steamrolls over you, and then the next song.
Right. And I think that's a pretty brilliant formula in the sense that I think I mean, I'm sure it's no news to you, but it seems like people's attention spans are a little short these days. And I think at the same time, I think you kind of wrap things up in a decent amount of time frame. That's not gonna distract people and go off to the next. I think with instrumental records, though, I mean, obviously, I think the folks that listen to those particular albums are different than the average, let's say in this case, rock fan. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find for myself that, I've had a really long career, and I'm super busy now. And Gene Simmons said it best to me. He said, if you don't know who you are, nobody's going to know who you are.
Right.
And he mentioned me, and this is back in the 80s, when I was just an up-and-coming musician in LA before Nitro. He said, he goes, your guitar playing's right years ahead of everybody else. He told me that. And he really liked my guitar playing. He thought I had a really cool look. He said, you've got everything that you need. And he said that Kiss was Kiss before they had a record deal, and he used Madonna at the time as a reference. He said, nobody developed us. He said, Kiss was Kiss before we got to a label. They knew they had a sense of self, and I have a good sense of self. I work with other singers. I've done a lot of things in my career, but when I do an instrumental album, I really just try to target it and just make it the best I can, and make it different from my other albums, but still make it me. And if I want to work with other singers, I mean, even with Ratpak, they've got a great stable of artists.
Right.
So that's something I can easily do. And there's a lot of great singers out there, but another thing is too, with the way I play and the way I perform, and we do master classes before the shows. I'm doing really well doing that, and it's a lot better for me, controlling this, and then sometimes being in a touring act and sitting on a bus, and I don't know. I've already been there. I've already done all that stuff with a bunch of other people around, but I really enjoy what I do.
Now, for you, I mean, would it be of interest to do a record where you, obviously one of your albums, but you bring in like different guest singers on, like, let's say 10 tracks or something like that? Does something like that interest you at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, I grew up playing with singers, and Nitro was my second major label band, not the first. And yeah, we both got signed. Both bands were signed, because the singers were great, and they had something that the label liked, and I wrote all the music pretty much with the singer in both bands. So, a lot of the material that I brought to it was mine that they wrote to my music. So, which was, I write a lot, but yeah, it's unlimited, because one of the things that I love about the industry now, I mean, it's so different, because I remember, all we KNEC was the station to listen to, when I was, when we were coming up, and I'm just glad it's carried on, but a lot of things have carried on because that era was so great, but I'm open to a lot of things. It's just got to be a really good project, and the sky's the limit. I mean, my skill's still really sharp, and I'm in great shape. So, I'm just looking forward to what's ahead.
Right. Yeah. Hey, let me just throw out a few songs here, because I can go off on this record for hours or whatever, but I know time was limited, but I'm going to pick like 3-4 songs, and you kind of give me the backstory, the inspiration behind the tunes. And I guess we'll start with the Badlands, being that's the song that kind of kicked off the record, or the I guess promotional cycle of the record.
Yeah, that I've done a lot of shows in the Montana area. I know it's a big state, but it's a place called Glendive, Montana, because it's right off of the Interstate 90, and they have the Badlands there, and that's, this is serious wilderness. It's a prehistoric ocean, and it looks like you're on a different planet. And so that's kind of my inspiration for that. And then we filmed a video in Los Angeles, about 70 miles outside of LA, and it was an old abandoned mine, and it was actually really cool. And it was in January of this year, and it wasn't super warm out. So, people were going, "How weren't you sweating? You don't look like you're sweating in the desert." Well, the desert's not always that warm.
Right.
But it was really fun. And, hindsight being 2020, that song's kind of different than most of the other songs on the album. So I don't even know if that would have been a great first one to do, but we filmed 2 videos that day, that one and More Machine Than Man. And they decided to release the Badlands first.
Cool. That was the next tune I was going to ask you about. But real quick, before we move on from the Badlands and the video clip, now I know that video probably didn't cost. It was probably a fragment of what, and it looks great, by the way. But it probably cost a fragment of what it would have cost back in the heyday of rock and metal. How much do you think a video like that, just off the top of your head, would have cost way back in the day?
Well, it wasn't unusual for people to spend $1 million on a video.
Jeez.
When you think of Whitesnake and Motley Crue, those are big budget. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe $500,000. Even when we were in Nitro, our second video, we had a big budget, a couple $100,000. And our first video was a low budget one, and it was around 50. And that's because they, when you asked that question earlier, the label wanted us to be out there outrageous. We actually started off much tamer than that. Mm-hmm. So go figure. But they felt if the highest, because Jim was young, he was only 19 when we got signed. He could sing that high, was really good looking. They felt they had a selling point. If you listen to my Dan Howland before Nitro, I didn't know his playfast. I didn't even write like that, but I was capable of it.
Sure.
And so they took what we did and made it extreme. They wanted it. In fact, this is literally a quote from the president of our label when we were recording our album. We were doing this song called Shot Heard Around the World, and I was playing this really cool, tasteful solo that I wrote. And the label president, Bob Cahill at the time, he goes, "Angelo, I want you to overplay all the time." And he goes, "I thought you were fast." He goes, "Make it fast." And 29 fret guitars, 36 fret guitars, 7-string guitars. Right. That's what they wanted, and we gave it to them.
Oh my gosh.
And we did it live, too. That's the thing.
Jeez.
Jim, we did a whole tour, 6 months on the road, 2-3 month legs. And, living out of a tour bus, and Jim never lost his voice. I mean, he was super. He was young. He was an athlete. I mean, it's it's not as hard, when you're 19 and 20 years old. So, but it's kind of. So I've had all these experiences in my life. That's kind of what brought me to today. I look at. And it's but I enjoy the ride. I still love the ride.
Yeah, and then you had mentioned a video's been shot for more machine than man. Give me the lowdown on that as far as backstory or inspiration.
You mean the song?
Yeah, the song. Yeah.
Well, I had a lot of material written, and what I did is I feel I'm a major label composer. I've been signed twice on songs and movies, and I'm a really good arranger. It's something that came naturally to me, and I work hard at it. Even when I do medleys of other people's music, we call them mashups now. I'm just good at just weaving in and out of parts and putting obscure things in that only a fan of the band might know, and it's just cool. But More Machine Than Man, I had all these different parts put together, and I had it arranged in a different way. And Josh Wilbur came in, and we were listening to these songs, and he picked a couple of them because Chris was supposed to play on more of the record, but he got into a really terrible motorcycle accident. So that's one of the reasons that delayed the album. But anyway, Josh took these parts. He comes to the studio with this laptop and every plug-in known to man, and he took the song and rearranged it and actually sped it up. From not cheating where we recorded and he sped it up. He actually took the original tracks demo that I had, and we were working on the song, and I had a little slower, and just the whole basic feel of the song was slower. And he goes, "Can you speed this up?" He goes, "Can you play this fast?" And he speeds the tempo up, and I start playing it. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "I want faster like this." And so that's what he did. He arranged the song. He arranged the click track, and it's called a tempo map. And then Chris did his drums to it after he did the arrangement, and I played scratch guitar. So he had a guideline, and then I went back and re-recorded my parts. After we finished it, but I'm really happy with that song. I mean, it's like stop-start, all over the place.
No kidding.
And Adler, I love Chris's drumming style, and we work really well together.
So I imagine there's probably talk of doing some more work together at some point, huh?
Oh, we'd like to. I have a lot of options because I'm grateful and I'm fortunate. And, I don't need to just be in one band. I mean, if a really great band situation happened, once this COVID thing's done, and I definitely look into it. And but I've also got vehicles to tour for this album already. I'm supposed to hit the road again on July 31st in Milwaukee, and it's not as many shows as it should be, in normal years. But I'm going to be playing basically the entire month of September, October, November, up until December 18th, if all works good. So my years.
Yeah. What about Dreaming of 1986? I mean, that's another cool tune.
Thank you. Well, I used to live in Woodland Hills, and I also lived in the Wilshire district, so I've lived all over LA. But when I used to live in the Wilshire district, I bring an acoustic to Griffith Park, and I play acoustic all the time. And then when I lived in Woodland Hills, we go up to Topanga Canyon, and we called it the Music Tree. And so we go up on the foothills there, and it was either me and the singer, or just me alone. And so I was just sitting in my studio about 3 a.m, and I just started playing this riff, and it reminded me of as a young guy just sitting, and I love Southern California, and it just reminded me of sitting in Topanga, around Topanga Canyon, right in the foothills, and just playing acoustics, just sitting there, and I'd have a cassette player and record myself, and that's what I did. That song, I just recorded it, and it came out like that, and then I said, wow. So I kind of wrote it on the fly. I had some of the ideas in my head, but I was just jamming away, and I took the jam, and that's the song.
Wow. That's awesome. What about the track 8, the AVTD.
Oh yeah, audio.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool song too. I mean, that's one of those ones from the get-go, the first run through the CD. I had to listen to it again.
Yeah, we have Victor Wooten now playing a guest bass solo in there too.
Nice.
And see, one of the things that happened with this album to delay it is, once we had a schedule and it was all going good, and then when Chris got hurt, and then Victor had a jazz record he released, and then he went on tour, and then I had my mother pass away. I mean, it was like all these things happened, and so, but I had all the tracks done, and the album turned out really heavy. And then Victor was on the road, so he had a really cool bass solo that we did, and so we used it. I asked him if we could use it for the song, so we actually wrote the part around this bass solo. And but I really like that song. It's a grooving. It's my oldest riff, and I like do 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 do. It's really. And I always thought that audio,
right?
It's super catchy,
right?
And then at the end,
right.
Or yelling my last name. But,
that could almost be like your theme tune.
I think so. I wanted to shoot that one as a video, and the videographer we had some input too, and he thought that we should do some. He said that's kind of a departure from the album, but that one I think is. I really feel strongly this album's there's so much good music on it. It's gonna just keep catching on and catching on. Right. But like once AVTD gets out there, it's just really catchy. It's hard to remember that.
Yeah,
after you hear it.
Yeah, no kidding. And I'll skip into track 12, which is one of the bonus cuts. Charlie Went to Chicago.
Yeah, that's The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah. So what inspired you to do that? Because you have, like, as you were saying, in the past you've done medleys, which are now considered mashups, I guess, and you've covered, other stuff like the Eddie Van Halen medley. That I was just listening to that this morning while I was cutting the grass.
Cool, right?
Wow, what an awesome tune! But so, anyways, what inspired you to do your take on "Devil Went Down to Georgia"?
Chris Adler, he wanted to do it.
Okay. So how did he have to convince you, or were you on board from the get-go?
Well, when a guy of Chris Adler's statue says something, and then when I did this, I said, okay, because like a lot of people, I have my own studio, so I said, let's see what I can do with it. And I came up with such a different arrangement of it. I mean, even the part where they get ready to duel in the double up, right. I had really, more sinister sounds, and it really had other than the the main theme. There's not really a lot that has to do with that song, and so I kind of did it tongue in cheek, like because I'm from Chicago originally. Charlie Daniels went down to Chicago instead of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, and but it was really Chris Adler that gave me the inspiration to do it. He said he thinks it would be. Because I like that about him. Like, he comes up with some crazy off the wall stuff, but it works. And you think at first, are you serious? This is Mr. Thrash, right? Saying this, Lamb of God, but so I tried it and I really liked it. I mean, I wasn't going to release it, but I felt that I just really played great on it. Right. It's one of those things that it just all came together, and again, that was about a 6 or 7 minute song that I had worked out, and we just edited out all these extra parts that I felt didn't have anything to do with the song. Right.
And that is traditionally a long tune anyway, when it's done by Charlie Daniels. Right.
Yeah, all the speaking, and so obviously I can't depict that on a guitar, so I kept those parts really minimal and just kept the solo sections blazing.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. I just got a couple more things, and then I'll cut you loose. And thank you for your
thanks.
time.
Great question.
So, in terms of like practicing, I mean, and it's interesting because you're part of like the Metal Method family, and it wasn't that well. I guess it's been a while since I spoke with Doug Marks, super nice dude, and I think at the time I caught him. Believe it or not, I think they had those fires in Southern California, and he was like, "I think I may have to evacuate tonight." But
he lives around Valley.
Super nice dude. And again, I mean, I've met you before at NAMM shows, at your signings and stuff, and you've always been really approachable and super nice to all the fans and stuff. But you're part of the Metal Method family. How much practicing do you do to keep yourself in shape, especially, during, this kind of time, downtime? I guess we should force downtime.
That's a good question because I've been really busy. One of the things that I've done is my life isn't based on my job isn't based on touring like a lot of other bands and other guitar players because I have this educational background. In fact, when I was in Nitro, her manager said, "Dude, don't even tell anybody you got a degree, man." I'd be like, "Yo, pornography, bro." I mean, literally.
Right.
They didn't want anybody to know I was educated. And education doesn't make anybody smarter.
Right.
You see all these memes about, some people are good at education, some people are good at life, but there's a lot of people that are good at both.
Yeah.
And but what I do to practice is I have different, and I'm a loyal person. I don't like to switch companies if I don't have to, because I always feel business as people first. And Doug and I are like brothers, and I've done so well with Metal Method over the years. We are curing right now,
right? I'm sure,
because we put out a good product.
Yeah.
And I practice what I preach. Things I've thought over the years, I do myself. It's not like do as I say, not as I do. And so, like, for example, I've got an online clinic next Thursday, and I'm going to do half acoustic, half electric. So I kind of do the Mark Tremonti approach to when he does shows, because Mark and I are good friends, and he practices specifically what he's working on. Like, he'll go over the songs of a show, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to woodshed it and make sure I go over and over and over the music. And so that's one way I practice. One other way is I do a short 20-minute to a half-hour warm-up before I do concerts or a clinic, but I do mostly concerts now. And so it's just a quick warm-up, because I find if you warm up too much, you'll play your best stuff before you ever hit the stage. And so, and then now in this coronavirus and everything, I've got time. So some days I'll be so busy, doing business stuff, I won't play. But when I play, I can play 8, 9, 10, 12 hours in a day if I've got the time. And I love it. And so I have different, but I have to practice for a reason. And it's got to, I always practice for a specific thing. And so it's really records, live shows, new material. I've got to learn. Like, I'm going to start doing Charlie Comes Home to Chicago and a few of the other songs from the new album. Like, one is called The Two Sirens. A lot of people are talking about that one.
Yeah.
And that's another Josh Wilbur arrangement.
Okay.
And again, it's my music, but
sure,
he put it together like that. So that's a great question, because if you don't practice for the right reasons, that's how you end up hurting yourself. And I just did a big thing about hand injuries on because I've never had one. But I take care of myself, because one of the things I think I've learned over the years is when not to play. Don't overdo it. If don't go insane and practicing if it's not required. If you don't need to, you practice for a reason.
Nice. Well, I just while you were saying that, thought of another question. It was like, and,
Sure.
and then I'll let you go, I swear, because I just keep thinking of stuff because of just stuff comes to mind as we're talking. But when's you were talking about having to go back and maybe learn or relearn, Charlie went to Chicago and stuff. When's the last time that you were listening back or to one of your own tunes, trying to relearn it and think, what the hell was I thinking? Because now after the fact, having to relearn it, it's given you a little bit of a fit.
Yeah, it's a great question because Richie Kotzen always said this, and I agree with him. He goes, every time he releases a new record and goes on tour, he goes, he has to relearn all the songs because it always comes out a little different in the studio, than because some things you think work, I've written so much music over the years, so much, and with this new album, I really focused on the rhythm guitar too. So and I switched guitar companies, and we're just coming out with the 7 strings now. I play a lot of 7, and not all the time, but I like it. And so, I just want to relearn like some of the main parts that I did, and because everything I played once. So if I play it once, I know I can play it again.
Right.
And so it's really just kind of a refreshing my memory because. Well, like I do a lot, like I'll sit in with bands and I'll do a lot of session work. I just finished 2 songs today, a shred collab with me, Vinnie Moore, and Andy James, and a young female guitarist, and then I do solos for other artists. So I just finished a solo for a band's record, and but so it's kind of like my songs are in my short-term memory, and then like if I would set it, I get it down, I know it perfectly. Then I go on to the next one after again, so I have to recall that. It sounds kind of weird, but it's true. Like I used to play with Drum Wars with Indianapolis.
Oh right, yeah.
And we did a lot of Dio songs, and Dio songs are hard to remember because it's like, does it go to F to C or C to F? Because like and it's these simple parts, but you have to know the arrangement or you're completely screwed. And so that's what I have to refresh my memory on. Like, okay, I listen over, all right, this goes here. It's like, sometimes it goes down, 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 hold it down.
Yeah.
So it's those little parts that you have to relearn. And that's the thing that I don't keep, that I have to refresh my memory on.
Yeah, nice. So here's my last 2 couple. We'll go with this one and end with a pretty cool one. But real quick, as far as like NAMM show, I mean, that's where I've met you a couple times and stuff over the years. If and when this happens, I mean, the NAMM show here coming up in 2021, I mean, I hope it happens, but what's your stance in terms of showing up for the show? Because again, you're a fan-friendly guy, but then at the same time, you got health to worry about and, family and, loved ones and stuff like that. Where do you fall as far as level of concern with this whole thing, with the coronavirus sticking around through that?
I have, I'm not a political person.
Right.
Everybody has views, or
Sure.
I don't talk about politics or religion, but I feel that is it overblown in some ways? Yes, but is it of a concern? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So my take on it is, I have to react to it. There's nothing I can do to control a governor or a state shutting down or opening up. So I have no control over that. So what I'm going to do is I've toured 58 countries. I'm a friend of China. I've been to China 15 times. And so I actually, about 3 years ago, I was in Beijing, and the air pollution was so horrific that picture the smoggiest day in the valley in LA. That would have been clean air compared to Beijing. And so I got these super heavy duty 3M masks for back then, and they were all brand new. I only used a couple of them. I had a whole bunch of them. And so I've got them now. So my take on it is, we're even talking about how we deal with meet and greets if the tour happens. But I'm going to just go with it. You can't be afraid to live, because if this is out there, I mean, there's bacteria all over planet Earth. People have to either be tough or not. But the one thing I do know, from my ex-fiance being a doctor, and I give Skype lessons to a doctor who actually treated COVID patients.
Oh,
and the odds, basically, it's about like this. You have a 99.999% chance of survival. So I'll take my chances,
right.
And if they have, and the moral of the story is, like, I have, I live alone, so, I've got my house, and if I go to the store, I wear a mask. When they say you don't wear a mask, I'll take the mask off. So that's how I look at it. I just try to take care of myself, but when I'm kind of worried, and I'm kind of not as worried.
Sure.
I'm somewhere in the middle of it.
Okay.
I do. That's how I feel about it. I don't feel the whole world economy should have been shut down. I think a lot of elderly patients are the ones that are. But I'm older now too.
Sure.
But I don't have these
pre-existing conditions or whatever, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And but both doctors that I care about a lot, and one of my students, he's a really good friend of mine, and the other one, my ex-fiance, I'm still, she taught in she got her PhD in Beverly Hills, and taught a lot of she was a doctor to a lot of big celebrities in California, and she lived in Coronado Island, and I mean, she's a genius and a brilliant, beautiful, wonderful person, and she said she knows a lot about this, and yes, it's serious, but also this wasn't the way to do it. The elderly people, and they're getting so that's kind of, it's a long question,
right?
But I for myself personally, I go out to the store, wear a mask.
Yeah,
that's it. I take care of myself.
All right. Well, we had kind of a heavy duty question. End on a high note here. The whole thing has been a high note, actually. Just talking with you. Strangest place you've written a tune, and what was the tune?
Wait, say that again.
Strangest place you've written a song, and what was the song?
God, one of the things the reasons I don't have writer's block is there's a million ways to write a song. But I'll tell you one of the wildest ones, and I'll answer your Nitro question.
Oh, okay.
But this pertains to Nitro. Jim Gillette was a really prolific songwriter like me. So was the singer when I was in the band Holland. When you get people who you can write with, and they're really creative people, like Chris Adler, or Josh Wilbur too, the producer, things just move along, because I can move as fast as the people I'm working with, and get as inspired. And so when we were doing our second album, our first album, the Nitro LFR, was really successful, and the label loved us, and so we would write, like, we had over 30 songs for our second album, and but we lost our K-Man. That's what happened on the second record. We didn't have the support from the label that we had on the first album, because everybody had feathers in their caps from, how they used to say, from, in other words, they had all these accolades from the success of Nitro and other things that they were doing at the time. So he moved on to another record company, another major label. But anyway, Jim had this song called Crazy Love. And so what he did was he sang it into his answering machine. He was staying out with some friends in, I think, Texas. Wasn't LA, I can't even remember exactly. I think it was Texas.
Right.
Kind of see one of those two. Anyway, he sings it. I'm here. Let me tell you a little story about me and a girl. And he plays what he did in his answering machine. And I'm like, shoot. I go, how am I going to record this? I go, okay, Jim, call me back and sing it into my answering machine. So what he did is he took his recording, put the phone up to it, into my, and I heard this like, can you, or, it sounded like, 3 generations down of analog tape, but I wrote the music for it from listening to his demo, and just him sing it, and it turned out to be a really cool song. I mean, really cool. But that's probably one of the weirdest
Okay.
ways. But and it worked. We ended up keeping it on the record, and it's a great song.
Yeah. Fantastic.
It's real. Yeah, and then I wanted to answer your original question.
Right.
I wasn't sure about Nitro. I love Nitro, and I don't deny the past. But see, you asked a really great question about toning it down. This is the mindset of the label back then. It was 1988 when we started recording our first album. It came out in May of 1989. We were actually paid to stay in the studio. They were paying for an apartment. They loved us. And because, I mean, we were just relentless. I mean, Jim was just a driven guy. You know, he was young. You know, I was older than him, but I was still young. And we had a young band. But the band was Jim and I, and we were in the studio writing songs and, you know, hanging out with people like, you know, Alan Holdsworth, even Donny Osmond came to the studio. And like, we were the new, like, Wonder Kids.
Sure.
And, you know, Gene Simmons wanted to assign us to Simmons Records at the time. And so when you heard the original version of Freight Train, I had this guitar go through like a train. And we had the cymbals, and it was really cool. And I used to write out all my solos. If I learned anything from California, is that the thing that I loved about LA more so, and especially back then, it was the music mecca of the world. I mean, you know, I remember going home to Chicago visiting my parents. I looked like an alien compared to when I left there, because I'm just hanging out with rock stars, and you just morph into this. Whatever you're going to be, it's going to make you the best you can be in Los Angeles. But what happened was the label took us to the extreme. They wanted it higher. They wanted it faster. They even made our record sonically abrasive. They took the mid-range out of our album. It ruined my rhythm guitar sound. All you hear on the CD is kick drum and high end. They wanted it sonically abrasive, to quote piss off parents. It was all geared to making the PMRC. It was like a marketing campaign. We were. They wanted people to either love us or hate us, and it worked. And they said, if we do what they say, that we'll ship 100,000 units and we'll chart, and they're going to give us a ton of tour support. And they did everything they said. Isn't that wild?
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and you know, the cool thing is, we were capable of it. That's the thing, that we really did it. I mean, Jim was you could say, you know, it's a joke, it's high, it's fast, it's this. When we played live, we used to click track because we had such massive vocals. We didn't even put microphones up. We just had the background vocals flying out, and Jim sang every note live. I played every note on guitar. As fast as the album, and almost all those solos were in my own weird brain written out in my head. Like, Freight Train was always played almost exactly the same every night, and I still do it really close to the original. So, but that's what happened. It went the other way around. They didn't tell us to tone it down. You would think if they should. They told us to ramp it up, speed it up, you know, and that's what was the end result. Even the sound of the record was calculated to make it abrasive, to just piss people off. And, you know, like, and boy, did it work. Like, when people heard Machine Gun Eddie, I mean, we had, like, the sight pulse. I mean, it was insane. Yeah, but it was cool. It was really fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks for answering that. I mean, again, you know, I think, you know, you didn't have to, and I just figured I'd throw it out there and see where it went, and if it did, fine. If not, that's fine too.
Well, I didn't want to feel rude. You know, you don't think I'm rude. It's just, you know, but I love the past, and I do, and I'm grateful for it. But you know, I try to, you know, I've got a new record, and I live in the present and hope for the future. That's kind of my thinking.
Well, cool. Well, yeah, thanks for some time, and we'll get this online and send you links, and hopefully we get the chance to chat again. I'm curious to see the end result of some of these other videos and stuff. Definitely the one for the TED Club.
Let me ask you, if you were going to shoot another video, what do you think? Like, what would be sort of suggestions?
Oh, I love the AVTD. I mean, that's like I said, that when I was listening to the record, I always give it like 6 listens before I make up my mind one way or the other. But I had to go back and hit that one again. It's just really catchy. That's why I said, that should be like your theme music. It seems like.
I think you're right, and even the label president Joe O'Brien, he's like he'll call me up audio, visual, technical, video,
right, exactly,
and I think I really appreciate that, and then when you get the everything out, and we'll get links and we'll post it and promote it.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you. I mean, and I look forward to chatting with you again. I mean, this is cool stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty stories. I mean, just, the times, I used to have a lot of KNEC shirts, and, it's just, the times were pretty magical then, and it's just an era that it's very, I mean, it was just so much fun, and you had to be in California. That was the place. You weren't really, I mean, even on the East Coast, the Bon Jovis and all that, they hung out in LA a lot, and you had to be there to know what it was really like to be in the big leagues of music back then. I mean, it was just, there was no place like it. I'm really glad I saw that, experienced it firsthand.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll get you a link, and then we'll take it from there.
Sounds great. Well, thank you.
Right. Thank you, and have a good rest of the weekend, man.
Okay, you too.
Yep, thank you.
Bye.